What women did you want to touch? Was it the battered women, the women who are struggling, the women who, the working woman, the young girl on the street who don't have a father or something like that? Like, what imagery did you see when you had this dream or vision?
The image that I remember seeing, and I will never forget this, I was literally sitting in my room one day, and God it's almost like the sky just opened up, and God gave me this vision of me I'm standing on a stage, and there were just numerous, there were men and women, and we're outside, and I couldn't even count the number. It was so far back, the crowd was so far back, I couldn't even see them, and God just began to speak to me, and he said, these are the broken women, these are the women who've been abandoned, these are the women who've been confused, these are the women who have chosen to go with the identities of the world versus the identity that I've given them. These are the men and the women that see images, but the images do not reflect me. And he said, these are the women that you're going to touch and you're going to reach out to. The women who really have something inside of them, but they don't know how to bring it out. And one thing that I know for sure, I have noticed this about myself, like I see things in people and I believe in them more than they believe in themselves. And the interesting thing is I'm that person that people really believe in me more than I believe in myself, but I can reel anything out of anybody. And that's because I really want to see people succeed. Everybody deserves it, and we can if we just really understand like what we carry inside of us. We all carry something great, but as long as we're looking outside versus within, we'll never really reach that purpose or that destiny that God has called us to. What really turned for me is one night I was sitting at home and I started putting together a PowerPoint presentation, and there was just like this voice that I heard, and I'd never heard anything like it before, and it was God pretty much just telling me, you need to change your life, and if you don't change your life, then I'm telling you, you're gonna head down a path to destruction. So as I'm putting together this PowerPoint presentation, I'm also sending my really close friend, who was at that time my only spiritual friend, an email saying, okay, I've never heard this kind of voice before. I think it's God, but I don't know. This is what he's saying. And after that, she replied back and she said, Jess, I'm telling you, this is God, and I'm gonna pray that you find a home church. And I also want you to pray about this PowerPoint presentation that he's put together about a woman's movement. And at that time, it was called Power of Woman. I tried to do a lot of things with it on my own, and it never worked out. So Woman of Purpose, basically our vision is to empower, inspire, and lead women to pursue their God-given dreams. I think we all have dreams, but not all of those dreams are God-given. And the way we do it is through having fellowships, community outreaches, and the conference is it's an intricate part of what we do. Eventually, what I'd like to see is the Woman of Purpose conference go global, and it be like a touring conference, and just bring other women who are pursuing their dreams to teach other women how to define their dreams and also to pursue them, and make sure that God is the center of it. Oh goodness. There was one, I have to sing it because we used to sing it at my church, and it's so funny. You don't mind if I sing it, do you? Okay, so it's, we are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar priesthood. Hold on, wait. Okay, here we go. It's in 2 Timothy, I believe. 2 Timothy 2:9, I want to say. He who has begun a good work in me shall perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. And she would always share that with me. And she would always just say, just know that God is doing a good work in you. And whatever he started, he's going to complete it. Like, he's going to finish it. And that was always her word for me. But the word that would always come from the Lord, it was always like, don't be afraid, be encouraged. Like in the book of Joshua, like so many times, like just be encouraged, or don't be afraid, be courageous. Because when you're going on a journey in life, I think it's really easy to be afraid. Like, God will show you these big dreams about your life or these big visions. And you're like, oh man, God, I'm not capable of that. Or why would you choose me to do it? And for the longest time, that was me. I never thought I was capable of it, or I never thought that I was worthy of it, or I never thought that I was even deserving of it. But when God has blessed you, like seriously, he will bless you. And if he's called you to something, just run with it. Run with that vision that he's given you. And that's what I've chosen to do. But there have been times where I chose to run away from it and not do it. Honestly, I don't even think there's just one woman. Like, when you say who's that woman for me, like who's that woman that like helps me?
Or a group of women.
There are actually so many. Like, I think I couldn't just pinpoint one woman, because there's so many great men and women who reel things out of me. I mean, there was a point in time when I really just wanted to give up, and on a lot of things, on life, just period. And my mom is always pushing me to tell me, you know what, you can't give up on your dreams. Look at my life. Look at my life and see the mistakes that I've made. And so I'm going to teach you through the mistakes that I've made how to continue to keep going. So my mom is like, really, she's a huge supporter. Like, she's probably one of my biggest cheerleaders. And I think even with the women and women of purpose, I sit down with them, and as much as I'm rooting them on, they're also rooting me on and really encouraging me. I have many mentors. But yeah, man, I couldn't just pinpoint one, because there's so many people that really like encourage me, inspire me, and push me to keep going. And I only choose to surround myself with those type of people. I can't surround myself with anything other than the people who encourage me. That's important. That's so important. Through Woman of Purpose, one of the things that I realize is that I'm really good with bringing people together. And in our fellowships, our Bible studies, I may not have been the one leading the Bible study or actually doing the teachings, but I was always the ones coming up with the topics, or, keeping the discussions that would happen in the Bible study. So I started looking at it, and I saw one of my friends, she started a YouTube show. And hers was more geared towards dating and relationships. And I was like, well, that's awesome. That's great. I was like, God, I don't really see a lot of TV shows for Christian young women or women who want to be empowered. There are, but they're more secular. And I said, what about something for godly women? I started watching shows like Wendy Williams, The Real, even Oprah's Life Class. And I was like, those things are amazing. They're great. But I really believe that in this world, like, we Christians, it's okay for us to have fun. And I wanted something for us. So I was like, okay, let me see. How do I want to do this? I started testing it out. And I filmed a show with Queen Smith and Vivian Jacotade. And it was amazing. It was great. So I put out a tester. And I enjoyed it. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. And I said, well, not only do I get to empower women through conferences, which is, Woman of Purpose, but now I can do this through a YouTube show called Dialogue. And I can invite different men, different women. I don't just have to limit it to women. And we can seriously talk about some of the craziest topics, things that Christians face, controversial things, and not be afraid to dialogue about those things. So that's where Dialogue came from.
Right, because I watched one, Guard Your Heart from...
guard your heart from false perfection.
Yes, false perfection. Y'all talk a lot about like social media and things like that. So how do you feel social media has like impacted the lives of Christians? Because I know when I was in school and Twitter was really hot, it was like everybody wake up, hey, I just woke up, thank the man. Then 2 hours later, you're like going on a cussing rant and about to go off on your professor.
Yeah. All right, so let me just take a moment because I actually went back and I started watching some of my videos. And I had to watch them over and over again because I realized there was something that kept coming up, and it was social media. I think that social media is a great platform to really market yourself, market your business, be strategic about it, even, you know, your ministry. But we also have to be very careful that we don't become idol. We don't idolize social media, or it becomes a god to us in our lives. And we also have to remember that social media sells perfection. It does. When you follow someone, you only see 5% of their life, and they're only giving you what they want you to see. We have to be very careful when we say that we're inspired by people on social media. You don't know 90% of their life. You have no idea. And we have people, especially Christians, who are walking in callings that God never called them to because they're inspired, or I'm now following this person and I love what he or she is doing and I want to be like that. So you now start trying to carry on these things that never belonged to you in the first place. And it bothers me so much. I thank God for what he's doing, because there are great testimonies that come from people who have given their life to Christ through people that they follow on social media or the blogs that they read. But it's also kind of scary because I see Christian women, and I see so many Christian women, you know, looking at different studies where your whole mood is affected when you go on social media and you see that maybe you're not as famous as someone else, you know, on Instagram, or as famous as someone else on Facebook, and people comparing their lives to others. I think social media, it's actually really destroying our generation. It really is, because it forces them to see lack. It forces them to see, I don't have this, so what God has given me is not good enough. My portion is not good enough. And I actually got the opportunity to interview someone the other day, and she said this. She said, we should be content with just Jesus. She said we should be content with just Jesus, and that's it. And once you're content with just him and the life that he's given you, then he adds more and more and more and more. But when you're looking at the lives of other people and wishing you had what they had, it means that you're not content with what the Lord has given you. And I pray for myself all the time, because it was a struggle, constantly comparing, the competition. Like I shouldn't be competing with anybody but myself, but it was causing that competition of, ooh, what's she doing? So let me try to keep up with what she's doing. And it's not about that. Like, if your ministry or what you're doing is competition to you trying to keep up with the other sister or the brother, you probably need to go back to the drawing board on why you're doing what you're doing. And I had to do it. So. Part of the message that God really wants me to speak to women is be content with who he has called you to be. And there's something that I always say is it costs you absolutely nothing to be the person that God has called you to be. So why invest so much time and energy trying to be someone else? I was that person. You said that people get up in the morning and they check their phones, and they're talking to the world and giving the world like what the Lord has told them, or whatever comes to their mind, instead of actually spending quality time with God. And it always really intrigues my interest when I see people take a picture of their Bibles and they say, I'm having quiet time. I don't get it because I really think about when Jesus was with his disciples, and when the crowd was coming, he's like, well, no, I need to go on the mountain and I need to go and pray. I need to have like my quiet time with the Lord. There was no one there with him. There was no phone. There was nothing. Like, he didn't need to blast to the world that this is my time with God. And there's so many verses in the Bible that just really talk about it's not what you do, and like it's not about what people can see you do. It's not how many Bible verses you know. It's not how many pictures you post about how much quiet time you're having. You don't need to do those things. Like, you don't have to force people to see that you have a relationship with God. You don't have to force people to know, or even you don't have to blast it out there. Like, when you really have God in you, people see the glory of God all over you. And I'm really beginning to understand that more and more now. But your quiet time, nobody should be involved in that. When you really look at the life of Jesus and the amount of time that he spent with God, on his face, on his knees, without anybody else around, that's how our quiet time should be. All the phones, the posting, letting the whole world know you have your quiet time. That's not what it's about. It's not about that. Ooh, that is a really good question. That's really good. I like the way you put that. Where do I begin? So I strongly believe in the meaning of names, and when you look at the entire meaning of my name, it is a visionary, a wealthy visionary, and the well-respected king or chief in my language, because we speak Igbo, and the last name is Zanya, and that's what that means. And so I've always just kind of looked at myself as this visionary, this woman who knows how to build and create wealth, this woman. And then of course, Chinyelu is my middle name, my Igbo middle name. And it means God remembers me, or God gave. So I think that everything that God, like everything about Jessica Chinyelu, Izanya, is a visionary that God gave, and God has placed her on this earth to go out and like really go and like empower. And that's me.